Okay, we are live. Just gonna wait for 2 minutes and then start. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of I'm Powered. I'm so excited for today because we have a very, very special episode lined up for you today. Our youngest guests ever, which is awesome because now we think that only adults can achieve great heights. But this day and age, I honestly can be no more prouder to see young people like our guests today doing the things that they're doing. So we have two guests with us today, Alicia and Kanisha. Kanisha will join us as soon as she can. But I want to start by introducing you guys and what you've done. So these two sisters are passionate social entrepreneurs who founded the hashtag Hope Sisters in Mississauga, Ontario. The Hope Sisters is a nonprofit organization dedicated towards lifting vulnerable members of the community. They are currently working on Hope Bags, which are bags filled with snacks, hope cards, and essential items and books for children in care. They strive to connect passionate individuals in this project by activating school chapters and setting up workshops in retirement homes for seniors to assemble Hope Bags. Together, they hope that they can foster a connection between kids in care and seniors in retirement homes. I actually came across you guys by a former teacher of mine, and funny enough, that class was leadership. And the following year after I graduated, I saw a tweet of hers, and I thought it was so fitting that I found you guys as soon as we were doing this episode. So it kind of fit right in. So while we're waiting for Kanisha, I'm so excited to have you here. So why don't we do a little introduction of yourself while we can?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me and my sister Kanisha. It really means a lot to us. My name is Alicia Aurora. I'm 14 years old. Yes, I know people might think it's pretty young, and I'm starting high school this year, so I'm really excited. Oh, and Kanisha's here.
Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, yes, so I am a politics enthusiast, as I was a legislative page for the Ontario Legislative Assembly, and I'm also currently interested in food tech and as well as femtech.
And you're 14?
Yes.
That's crazy. Kanisha, welcome to I'm Powered. We're just doing a little introduction of you guys. We just went through your nonprofit as well as a little bit about yourselves. Alicia just told us all the great things about her. Why don't you go ahead and do the same?
Oh, for sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on today's show. It's truly an honor to be here and have the opportunity to share my experiences. Like Alicia, I'm also very passionate about philanthropy and politics. I actually got involved at a young age by, interviewing and meeting with the mayors and being a part of Minister of Innovation, Science, and Economic Development's Youth Council in grade 9. I remember being the youngest one in the room. And yes, it was challenging. There was a lot of adversity, but I think it's these adverse experiences that really led me to, opening up the opportunity to actually even be elected as a student trustee for the Peel District School Board. I'm very passionate about STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and I hope to one day become a cardiothoracic surgeon and serve our community in any way possible.
That's awesome. You guys are so inspiring. I was just telling Alicia that I came across you guys on a tweet by Miss Cooper, and she's honestly someone who's had such a big impact on me and like the person that I am. And I think it's great that like we were able to connect through her tweet. She's always been a big fan of people like yourself. So I think it's great that, I found you guys through that and we're here today. So let's start off by just talking about your organization and how it started.
Sure.
So I'll get started. So firstly, Kanisha was actually volunteering at the hospital during COVID-19. I think she could share her experience.
Oh, for sure. So before COVID-19, I was actually working at the hospital. I was volunteering there. And when I was volunteering, I came across an old lady, one of the patients at the hospital, who talked to me greatly about how COVID-19 and the protocols that were set in place really left her with a feeling of isolation. There was this whole sense of gloom that was just over her head. She felt so lonely, and as though there was no one to support her because the healthcare workers were just focusing on her physical health, and her children or grandchildren come visit her. And so I came home that day very sad about hearing her story, and honestly, it makes me cry. It puts me to tears even thinking about it now. But I knew that I had to do something, so I started off by writing her a card just with a hopeful message, telling her that I'll always be there for her and that everything's all right. And I know the world is right now, it's very negative. There's a lot of negativity, but I'm here to spread positivity, and there's a lot of positive things that she could be looking at in her life. And so when I did that, I came home and I told Alicia about how happy she was to have this card, and she said that, you really gave me a sense of hope and purpose to live for the next day, because I didn't have that fulfillment without, being able to see my grandchildren. And Alicia told me that, it's not only her that's going through this. There are so many other seniors in not only long-term care or hospitals, but even retirement homes. And so we started off, we spent the whole night writing 500 plus cards.
I did, I saw that.
Yeah. And so we gave them out. We actually had the opportunity to work with our local MPP to coordinate those visits, because there's a lot of protocols that are set in place with the public health sector. And so I guess after giving out all those cards, we suddenly realized that, this is not something that we can only do once. It's something that we have to continue to do. There's so many other people that need that sense of hope in our community. And so we decided to establish this organization called the Hope Sisters. And so we're sisters on a mission to spread positivity and hope. And another aspect of our organization was actually helping children in care. So whether that be kinship care, foster care, or Indigenous care. Because I'm sure, John, you can also relate that COVID-19, has really allowed you to understand the support system that you have and really pull on these supports, whether it be your parents, or I know even for me and Alicia, we're so privileged and we're so blessed to be that privileged, because in the middle of the night, if we're feeling lonely, then we'll, grab our toys and play with them. Or if we're feeling hungry and we're craving a snack, then we'll be able to get our chocolate bars. But it's not the same for every child out there. And we immediately recognize that there are so many vulnerable children within our community, and COVID-19 makes them even more vulnerable. And so we decided that we had to do something about it. And Project Hope Eggs is actually Alicia's brainchild. And so Alicia can speak more about how we came up with that.
Yeah, go ahead, right into it. That was actually my next question.
So Project Hope Eggs is essentially a hope egg. So it's a bag filled with items like books and toys and cards, handwritten cards that we write just to give a hope and bring a smile to a child's face. We believe it's so essential that we do something about all the children in care who are robbed of childhood experiences. And through talking with so many children, and after they receive their bags, they told us their stories about how each item made them feel so special and really important, because being children in care, they don't really have anything that they can call their own. Because I have a friend who moves to over 20 foster homes, and she's only 13 years old. That's insane. So she's moved to more houses than her own age. And essentially, she never really had anything to call her own. And through the Hope Egg, she had so many wonderful items just to keep with her, and it could really support her throughout COVID-19 or just the rest of her life.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I honestly don't even know what to say, just because hearing where your inspiration grew from and just how you've worked up from the baby steps and made this into something so incredible is so inspiring. I remember just going back to Miss Cooper, because I just think she has such a big influence on the way that I perceive the things that people do now. She told me once in class that all it really takes is the smallest idea and the smallest encounter with people. And when you stick to that and you stick to you stand your ground and kind of believe that this is something I can do, it's almost like nothing is possible in the most cliche way. But honestly, it is it's possible. That one little trigger, that one encounter with someone just creates what you guys have done. So I think to everybody watching, don't be afraid to, kind of dream big. And if you know that you can support people through something, even if it's the most like small thing, like maybe pay for someone's coffee behind you, like that just goes such a long way. And I think people like start to realize that when they see people like yourself and kind of at the forefront of it all. So great job, you guys. Like honestly, I'm speechless.
Thank you.
Just moving on to the next question. With your organization, what's kind of like the goal in the long run, like post COVID, or like just kind of the long term goal? Because I'm sure this isn't something that you guys want to stop here.
Of course. So as you mentioned, Genevieve, it's all about, you know, that movement of making change. And for me and Alicia, it's really not a movement of working towards supporting just one group of people. It's actually about bringing together the community to support each other. And so even with the Hope Bags, what we did was we partnered up with local businesses. Yes, we could have easily purchased these items with the money that we had fundraised, but it was so much more beautiful to see the impact that these small businesses wanted to create. We had so many businesses reach out to us to donate items to be part of our Hope Bags. And just that sense of community is so inspiring. So as you mentioned, even though an action might seem super small, like writing one card, it really does go a long way. Just going back to Ms. Cooper, she's been absolutely pivotal with helping us spread this message. You know, she was so kind to even empower her children in her own classes to write these cards for not only seniors in long-term care, but also the frontline workers. So to me and Alicia, this is really about a movement of spreading hope, about bringing together people to recognize that there's so much in the community that we can give back to, and it's important to have these values of giving back. So as you mentioned, I encourage all the viewers here today to not stop or limit yourselves with any idea you might have, whether it's writing a card, getting together a Hope Bag, or even just making like essential lip balm items. Alicia and I, for our Hope Bags, we actually created organic lip balms that we put inside our bags. And it's just to foster that sense of, you know, mindfulness and being environmental friendly and being healthy and promoting well-being. So although these items in the Hope Bag might seem like just a water bottle or just a blanket, it honestly goes so much further than that. We've even provided books within our Hope Bags that during the BLM movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, when there's conversations in our society about racism, we immediately recognize that education is the foundation of any change. And so we included books by Maya Angelou and her autobiography about the adverse experiences that she's faced as a Black woman in society to really educate the children who are receiving these Hope Bags so that they also have the privilege to learn about what inequalities lie in our society. And so I guess my advice to that would be to, you know, to all the viewers, don't think small, you know, even if it's just a small action, it really goes a long way. And so I guess for me and Alicia, our long-term goal is to really get together as many hashtag hope spreaders as we can, you know, really build that sense of community of hope spreaders that do give back in any way that it is. You don't have to, you know, be a financial donor. You don't have to contribute in any other way to become a hope spreader. Being a hope spreader is all about doing what you can, using the resources that you can to lift one another in our society.
Yes, and to add on, I would just like to say that many people want to give back to their community, but they just don't know how. And this is common with everyone, seniors, our middle-aged people, and even children. We really hope that the Hope Sisters can be a platform where you can do many things. There's different avenues of giving back to your community, and it can be as simple as 5 minutes. Simple as 5 minutes to make a difference in your community.
Yeah, I think it's great that you guys touched upon like building that sense of community, because I think like now more than ever, we need that kind of like just that bond between people around us, because we know that like people are suffering from different things. And even though we're in the same boat of this uncertainty of the future, there are still different groups of people on that boat. And I think recognizing that the best way to kind of tackle problems like these is as a community, just because we're just stronger as we come together. I think you guys talked about like, you know, spending that money and buying things, but there's more power in getting people involved. And I think that's another domino effect into creating change. So kudos to you guys for that. Just for everybody watching, how can our community help you achieve your goal? Is there like a certain sponsorship program or like just how can we get involved?
Well, there are so many ways. Oh, you can go ahead.
No, it's okay, Alicia.
I love this. I love this sister like back and forth thing.
Yeah, so I'd say there's so many ways, even if it is through a financial donation. We have a GoFundMe page, and we're soon to open our PayPal page. But not only that, even if writing some cards and delivering them to us, or even if you have your own business and would like to donate items to include in our Hope Bags, there are so many ways where you can check out our website and you can totally see many ways you can make a difference and also help us support our mission of helping every child in care in the GTA, helping all the seniors in Ontario, and you can help us join our mission.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
You want to add something? Or?
And just foster. Thank you. Just to add something quickly, Alicia and I, as we mentioned, really value volunteerism. And so another thing that we're trying to activate is school chapters. So if there's any student leaders that are watching this live right now, we're actually starting chapters of the Hope Collective. We have over, I think, 15 chapters already locked down for starting in September across Ontario. And so if anyone here is interested in really helping us with that movement of spreading hope and positivity within your schools, definitely reach out to one of us through our social media or our Instagram, our website. And we're actually on social media everywhere. So any social media account you have is perfect to reach out to us. You can also find our email on the website, and there's so many ways to get involved with this movement, to be honest. Whether you're a senior, whether you're a middle-aged person who's even busy and you don't have time to actually sit down and volunteer, you can quickly go on our website. It takes less than 5 minutes to get a Hope Bag and purchase that, and that's one way of making a difference. And then that volunteer aspect for any children who want to. There's so many ways. If you look out, if you try to reach out, I'm sure there's something that, even if you want to start a new initiative or a project with the Hope Sisters, Alicia and I would be more than happy to welcome those ideas.
Yes, for sure.
That's awesome. I think it's great that you guys, school chapters is one of the ways that, I remember was just so powerful. I remember when the shooting happened the school shooting, and this happened when I was in grade 11, so 3 years ago. I remember telling Miss Cooper, and I was just like, I want to do some type of march, and, just provide solidarity. And everyone's like, no, that's crazy. We shouldn't do that. But I remember just her being there and her telling me that, if that is something you want to do, we'll make it happen. So I think just using the resources that people have at school is kind of underestimated. So I think that you guys opening school chapters is just so powerful. And I know so many teachers and students would be willing to get involved with that. So for those of you who are watching, if your child seems like someone who'd be interested in this, please get involved with these girls. They're doing such a great job, as you can see. But Kanisha, I want to talk to you about your role as student trustee. We'll just wait for her to get back. The internet, you gotta love it. But I want to talk to you about just your role as a student trustee. For those of us who, well, I'm guessing the majority of people don't know exactly what that role entails. Can you fill them in on that and your experience with it? Oh,
for sure, of course. And as you mentioned, Johnny, you're right. Absolutely.
There is a network issue, but it's okay. We'll just wait. Maybe we should just.
Alicia.
Kanisha, you're cutting off.
And I were able to even think about empowering our community was all because of the teachers and the educators. These values.
We'll just wait. Okay. Well, while she's fixing her internet,
I'll just talk a little bit about what we want to also have in our hope or our school chapters.
Go
So
ahead.
one of the things that we've heard a lot from people is that the stigmas they have of children in foster care. Many people that I've talked to, they think that, oh, children in foster care, they do drugs, they partake in crime, and this is only because of one reason: they're not educated enough. And which is why through the Hope chapters, our school chapters, what we really want to do is spread that awareness, whether it's be through having a Hope Talk event where a child in foster care can share their experience. I have one of my foster care friends who has two gay dads, and she finds it really difficult for her to ask for menstrual products because it's really embarrassing. And through including things like that in our Hope Bags, we really want to provide that support and all the help that they need. Now, especially break the stigma that normal children like me and like everyone in my class and everyone in our school have. So the stigmas, I think it's really important to break them and really educate people about what's actually going on.
That's awesome. No, I'm glad you touched upon the whole stigma aspect of it, because it's true. We've seen it through society. We've seen it through just movies and social media as well. I think that has a huge part in how we perceive these people. And I think just you standing up for them, first of all, I can't wrap my mind about the fact that you're 14, and that to me is incredible. I think
Thank you.
Just talking about a little bit more on what you hope to entail with the bags. I think already just the fact that you're taking a step forward and just being at the verge of kind of transforming people's ideas and people's minds about kind of the stigma is incredible. So I think she's back. Okay, no. So that was awesome. Kanisha, before we lost you, I wanted to talk a little bit about your experience as student trustee. For those of us who are watching, can you tell us what that role entails?
Yeah.
It's still a little weak. It's still a little weak. So while she gets that figured out, Alicia, let's talk about just school in general and how that was this year.
Well, yeah, for sure.
She's back. She's back. Okay, nice.
Yes. She's back. My apologies. I believe I'm having a bit of difficulties with connecting and hearing the audio. Are you guys able to hear me all right now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, John V, for introducing my role as student trustee multiple times now. I believe you guys are speaking to COVID-19 and the issues that are happening with the pandemic and how that has really spoken to the new normal of education. And I guess from my role as student trustee, I'll quickly introduce what that role entails. Well, I actually got elected for the role last year in April, and so it was basically all the students in high school at the Peel District School Board. They were able to vote for a student trustee, and a student trustee sits with the adult trustees in the board. We do have a non-binding vote, but our vote does count in terms of the voice that we do amplify of the students, and so we have the opportunity to actually sit on the board with the board of directors, the superintendents, and the board of trustees, and also our director of education. And so we basically act as the sole voice, student voice, for the trustees when we're providing any insight on the motions that we're establishing or the motions that we're passing. So over my time, I've had the opportunity to sit on so many working group meetings as well, whether that be about accessibility training or even about things for special education, all of our working groups, and how we're trying to really work together to ensure that we're working for the children. And I think the beauty of this role is that sometimes adults don't understand the needs of students. And so as a student trustee, I've had the opportunity to listen and hear from a lot of students about what really are the concerns revolving accessibility. What concerns do we have revolving special education? What about the EQAO testing? What about whatever's happening with the teacher strikes? How does that play a role in, how does that affect the learning of our children? Also, what about e-learning? How is the future of e-learning going to look like? And I think with the global pandemic, e-learning is something now that is mandatory. So before we were fighting for it to not be mandatory, but now regardless of it, it is mandatory. And so I think my role as student trustee, the reason why
I'm so grateful for it is because I've really understood what it means to be a student leader. And for all the people who are watching today, I really hope you understand that student trustee or student leadership is not about the position itself. I'm always, advocating that leadership is actually not a position, but it's actually more of an action. And so advocacy at its finest is not so much about the motions you pass, the number of bills you pass, the number of things you do, but more so the people you listen to, the groups you listen to, and the diverse experiences that you really intake in order to make a decision that's really informed decisions. Because as a student trustee, I recognize that I'm very privileged to sit up there, and there's a lot of students within our society who might not even have the privilege to dream of becoming a student leader just because of their socioeconomic statuses or the other barriers they have in their life. And so for me as student trustee, what I've really tried to do this year is listen to anyone and everyone that I can. So, whether that means taking a lot of school visits in areas with low socioeconomic statuses that are very high on the poverty index, or even listening to students from the We Rise, the people who are Black in color, are also listening to the Indigenous students from the north of Ontario. What inequities do they face in terms of the delivery of curriculum? The beauty of being a student trustee is that you learn about advocacy, and that advocacy at its finest is all about listening. And so in my role, I've not only listened to students within my board, but also connected with students across my board. Like today, I was very fortunate to reconnect with my friend and student trustee from the Simcoe County District School Board, and we spoke highly about menstrual hygiene and how she's trying to tackle period poverty in her board. And so, it's something that I'm also looking forward to doing at our board. And I think by listening to people, not only do you increase your knowledge that you have, you also increase your impact. And you also increase the number of people that you can empower. And so I hope that to all of our listeners that are watching here today, that you recognize that you have the same potential that I do or anyone else does. You're the same as the person you're dreaming of shaking hands with. You're the same as, Barack Obama. You're the same as Justin Trudeau. You're the same as Elon Musk. And it's all about really honing in on your potential and just listening to people. Because if you really do want to go further in life, you can't live in your own bubble. And I think we all know that perspective and perception is everything, and it really does go a long way. And I think it also speaks a lot to mental health and well-being. I think during this role, I've had the opportunity to also learn about my strengths and also, figure out what works for me, what helps me manage my mental health. I'm not sure if you know or the viewers know, but this year for the Peel District School Board has been an absolute roller coaster, or more so a downhill roller coaster. We've had great issues with anti-Black racism and systemic racism. In the first 160 years, the ministry has had to appoint a supervisor to take over the board of trustees and our whole school board, which is absolutely terrifying. I remember sitting in those board meetings and just hearing the stories that students have shared about the racism and stigmas that they face from not only the people that they're supposed to look up to the most, but also the people that are supposed to empower them the most and foster their talents the most, our teachers and educators. Some of these stories, honestly, John V., they've been so terrifying and heartbreaking to hear that it still happens in the 21st century. But I guess what's worse is that not people's ignorance in our society, but it's more so the illusion of knowledge. They think that they're knowledgeable about whatever's happening, but in fact, their illusion of knowledge is what's, feeding this system of racism, this constant inequities that we have. And I think that it's super important that we all take a moment to educate ourselves before we take action. We recognize our privilege. Being a student trustee has taught me this in the most hardest ways. I really wish that I didn't have to go through those experiences to really learn about these inequities. But I guess to all the young leaders out there, I really hope that you don't focusing on furthering your political career or your public image, but you focus on genuinely creating an impact. And that never starts unless you understand how to measure your impact. Even with the Hope Sisters, Alicia and I, we started off by making cards. And what seems to people as, it's not a financial contribution, there is no impact with cards. But it's all about how you measure that impact, by really lifting people's emotional well-being, that's so much more impactful in terms of creating a change instead of just collecting thousands of dollars and donating that to a fundraiser. It's so much more than that. And I know I've rambled on quite a bit here, but I'm very passionate about the work that I've done as student trustee and the experiences that I've had. And I'll let you take the floor from here, John B.
Wow, that's awesome. I remember being in leadership in grade 11. And Ms. Cooper actually said, I love that I'm going back to her, but she's had such a pivotal role in just the way that I perceive leadership. And I think you can attest to that as well. She told me that, being a good leader isn't just about making a difference. It's about listening to what's really there that needs to be done. And till the time that you don't understand and kind of hear the needs of other people, you can't really make a difference. Because again, you're right, you'll be in that little bubble. So I think just stepping out of the bubble, kind of opening up to the bigger things and the things that kind of need more attention is the way that we should be headed. And I think you're right. I think just that I can tell that experience has shaped the way that you perceive kind of every little thing now. Is that true?
Absolutely.
I don't want to. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
No, 100%.
You talked about e-learning, and Alicia, you being in school for a little bit longer than we will be. How do you think that's going to change? And are you looking forward to that, or is that something that you're kind of looking dawning upon?
Well, for me personally, I think that e-learning is definitely the future because right now it's the coronavirus, but you don't know what's coming down in the next few years. This is only the start. This is not where it's going to end. This is the start. Therefore, I think that this is only the beginning, and I think e-learning is something that we have to adapt to. I think it's a must. It's needed for sure because we always can, because some people don't find it safe to go to school, or either some people don't find it that it's mandatory. But e-learning is the future, and I think e-learning, the platform itself, having there might be some teachers who are older in age, or they don't know how to use technology. And there's so many barriers within e-learning, but then again, there are also so many barriers with going to school as well. So what I think especially is that e-learning is the future. I think that we have to get used to it. It might not be something we're excited for. We're not going to see our friends every day, or go back to recess and have that sort of community aspect. But our education is really fundamental, so we can't just quit education altogether. I think it's really important that we have our e-learning and I have online learning balance us, make us stable. I don't think I can.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a bit of an echo. So yes, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, nice. I know. My sister is going to high school next year, so she's a little bit concerned on kind of fostering that community bond. And I think that right now, more than anything, just the fact that we live in a country that we're able to still gain that education through a platform is, I think, something that we should be grateful for. So that's what I keep telling her is that we're still in a really good place compared to other countries. So I think the way that you talked about e-learning is the way that people should be looking at it and not as kind of like a negative point. So Kanisha, you just graduated this year.
Yes.
That's exciting. How was that experience for you? Kind of your grade 12 year, didn't have prom, didn't have grad. For me, just that is something that I keep kind of sympathizing with grade 12s, but I also know that you guys have made that experience just your own, kind of grasp onto whatever has happened and kind of made that into a project. So how was that experience going through grade 12, graduating, but also not having everything your senior year should have?
Well, it's great that you mentioned that, actually. I know it's been very unfortunate that we weren't able to foster together as a community the milestones of our graduating classes. And even Alicia just graduated from grade 8, And I know it might not seem as a great milestone as graduating from grade 12, starting that new chapter, but I think for all the graduates out there, I know it's been difficult not being able to celebrate with your friends, these great years that you've accomplished, all the experiences and journeys that you've been through. And I guess for me, yes, it is very sentimental that we didn't have that opportunity, but I do also understand that in the midst of this global pandemic, there's a lot of things that, we should be focusing on, whether that be adapt to this new environment of e-learning. And if I can just quickly speak to that before getting into my experience of graduation, I think from an educational perspective, just to inform all the viewers, I was speaking to the Minister of Education a couple days ago, and we talked about how the new style of education is going to be, well, there's 3 options. He said that it's all going to be left up to the parents. So one can be, students actually go to the schools, and there's only a maximum of 15 students per class, and they would have maintaining social distancing. The other option is that all of it is online, and the other option is a hybrid style. So Alicia mentioned a great point about how it's time for us to adapt to online learning, and I'm very ardent that technology is the future. It's an extension of our human selves, and it's important that we do understand how to access that technology. We train our educators how to make these tools not barriers to learning, but more so facilitate the learning itself. I was speaking to a couple of provosts, with the principals at universities, and what one of them mentioned, the principal of Waterville University mentioned, was that technology is it's exciting for technology right now because there's so many new ways that we can further our learning. And he said that currently the professors, there's been a learning curve for them to adapt to all this technology. But he said once we've adapted, we're going to find that the delivery of curriculum is going to be so much more efficient. And I know there's a lot of inequalities. I'm not going to ignore the fact that my friends in Greenstone District School Board all the way up north, that they don't have access to Wi-Fi or internet. I'm not going to ignore the fact that my friends in Timmins, they don't even have laptops or any devices. And here I am sitting with 3 telephones and 2 laptops right in front of me. I recognize the privileges that we have, but I also recognize that it's our job as a community to ensure that these inequalities do not lie. So if we have these barriers, we shouldn't have these barriers in the first place. These should be basic human needs. And speaking to all the governmental figures, I know that they're investing all that they can to really support not only the students who are trying to learn, but even the educators that don't have laptops to teach, and the parents that can't work from home because they don't have any, devices. And with COVID-19, they're forced to work at home. I know that investments need to be made, and I really hope that together as a society, we can urge the people who really enforce these policies, we can challenge them to say that this is the normal, but we have to get there. Our society is not ready, so it's your job and your duty to ensure that we are ready, not tomorrow, but we're ready today. Because this is happening today. It's happened a long time ago. E-learning is not new. In all of the universities and post-secondary institutes, we find a lot of these e-learning courses. There's a lot of flexibility that comes with it, but there's a lot of other challenges in terms of our mental well-being. That productivity part of it, it's important that we're able to ensure, just with graduation, with having virtual graduation as an example, there's that kind of disconnect, because even now, this interview wouldn't be the same if we were sitting right across from each other. There's a wall, there's a screen right in front of us, and I guess it's something that we as a society have to get used to. But sometimes it is going to be hard. We are going to feel that sense of isolation, that sense of loneliness. Even with my experience of not being able to celebrate prom, I had to take a photo of myself in my prom dress and FaceTime my friends and celebrate that way. It was so unusual to celebrate these very important milestones and these very exciting times. But I guess, as a society, we have to adjust to it because, our health comes first, and it's important that we don't put our neighbors, our sisters, our friends at risk by not socially distancing. I know it's hard, and we have to establish a lot of techniques to ensure our well-being and our mindfulness. And I've actually started practicing a lot of that when we had to start with e-learning, because productivity, once you know that you can attend class at 12 p.m. and you're not going to wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning, you just don't have to. But I guess it's all about establishing healthy habits, healthy routines, and to really foster love for yourself. These past couple of days, I think I've really got a lot of insight into who I want to be as a person, not just what things I want to do. And to all the young leaders out there, I think the first thing you need to understand is, yes, it's important to have personal goals or professional goals or academic goals, but it's equally as important to have goals for yourself as a human being. You know, I've really learned to love myself these past couple of days, because if you can't love yourself, then you can't love anyone else in the community. You can't find that love and empathy to actually give back to other community members. And so I think finding that love for yourself all comes from developing healthy habits, doing things that you love, whether that's spending time with your sister. Alicia has been so great in helping me with my journey of being, you know, very mentally healthy, and I'm so grateful to have such a great support system like my sister. And I recognize that not everyone has that, and I'm privileged again to, you know, be able to have my sister with me, to play with me when I just want to de-stress from work, you know, to go out on walks with me, to learn dances with me because I love to dance. And I guess for people who don't have those systems, I want you all to know that there are people like me who are there for you. So if you ever want to talk about whether it's school, if you need help with math, like I'm always here, I love math. But even if it's not about math and you just want to talk about your favorite food, like pizzas or chocolate, like, you know, always never feel free to reach out to me or other friends that you might have. I know even the government has invested in a lot of mental health supports. If you don't want to be so anonymous and you want to make more friends, you know, there are so many people out there. Just don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Be very strong. Recognize your strength. And never ever think that just because you're put in a situation where you haven't been strong, that you don't have that strength. I'm not going to lie and sit here and say that I myself haven't made mistakes. I myself haven't had bad experiences. I myself haven't had, you know, downward slope in my life. Yes, I think as a society we always pride ourselves on our successes, but I've always been very open about my faults as well, because I hone in on those faults. They make me who I am. They get me through all my hardships and all my experiences. So never beat yourself around about all the challenges you face, whether that be e-learning, whether that be any mental health barriers or racism barriers, you know, societal barriers that might be in front of you, socioeconomic inequalities. You have the power, you've always had them. Just because you're not strong in that one moment doesn't mean you're not strong. And you know, one of my friends, she's the student trustee for the Durham District School Board, and she's been phenomenal as well. I remember speaking to her one time about how I was so frustrated with whatever's going on our board in regards to the inequalities, in regards to how sometimes I feel like student voice is just tokenized and it's not appreciated enough, you know, because those are very viable barriers that any student who wants to further, any leader who wants to further in their career or advocacy is going to face. I was talking to her and she said that Isan, the fastest runner on earth, you know, it's just because he gets lost in the forest and he slows down doesn't mean that he's not the fastest runner on earth. He still is, but in that moment he was just lost, so he had to slow down, and that's okay too. So I guess, like, I know I've jumped around on many topics here, but I guess the bottom line of the advice that I really want to give, whether it be about societal barriers, you know, any advancements in careers, or even just economic behavior barriers, or even mental health barriers, is to just believe in yourself. Sometimes I know people say believe in yourself and we don't necessarily understand what that means, but if you truly believe in yourself, you'll realize that you can unlock your full potential and just be the best version of yourself. And as you mentioned, Janvi, it's all about that domino effect. If you be the best version of yourself, you're going to inspire so many people to be the best version of themselves. I am not someone who's any different than any of the viewers or listeners today. You know, I think, in fact, I'm just one of you guys. Like, I still am, even though I have a position of a student trustee, I meet with a lot of high figures or ministers. That to me, honestly, doesn't mean anything. It's all about the impact that you create, and the impact that you understand that you create, and the impact that you want to create. So I hope that the biggest takeaway from this for everyone is to just be the best version of yourself and do everything to the 110% of your ability.
That's awesome. I literally have goosebumps when you're talking. So I totally agree with you in terms of how this kind of quarantine and COVID has, to me, honestly been a blessing in disguise. I think that I've used the time to kind of, like you said, understand where I want to kind of go in life, or the person that I want to be. I think the bottom line, like we said, is having that adaptability, having kind of the outlook where things are different, but how can I make the most of it in the given situation? So I think that goes for school, that goes for workplaces. Like I know I see my dad and he's doing like meetings, and I'm like, that's the new norm. And it's funny, it's cute. They do like backgrounds with like some memes and stuff, and I was like, that's how you kind of make the most of the situation that you're given. And I think the quicker that we're able to adapt to the new normal, and the quicker that we're able to like say that this is what it is, how am I going to make the most of it? I think that's where people are going to be more comfortable with the e-learning, and like you guys did with prom. Like, yes, it's not ideal, but at least you had something. Alicia, before we kind of wrap this up, can you explain for our viewers one more time about how we can get involved with Hope Sisters?
Yes, for sure. So currently, if you check on our website, we have our GoFundMe page where you can check it out, and GoFundMe, Hope Sisters, and where you can sponsor a Hope Bag and make a difference in less than 2 minutes. So that's one way. But if you don't want to support financially, you can volunteer, start a school chapter today. Look into our website and sending us an email, and we'll definitely give you all the resources to start your school chapter. You can also do simple things that cannot be only connected to Hope Sisters, but we really encourage you to give back, even if it's just smiling to a senior you see nearby, or holding a door for someone. That is how you can be a hashtag hope spreader. Even the simplest action can make the biggest impact. And that's something we want to leave you with here today.
That's awesome. I don't think there's a better way that we can end this off. To both of you, you guys are inspiring. You are literally our future leaders. I was telling my mom about you guys yesterday, and she was so impressed. And I think just everybody watching can agree with me, and people who are going to watch this after that it's being done. Just this is the kind of future we need. The future that we kind of believe in, that will take us to the next level. Because it's not enough to do nothing anymore. It's not enough to just sit around and let things like the Black Lives Movement go unnoticed, or things like just the LGBT community go unnoticed. I think that like the fact that people like yourself are speaking to these problems, you can call them, I think that is the forefront of change. And just talking to you today has kind of inspired me as well into doing things that, like, last night I was thinking about, like, before I was going to sleep. I'm like, this is what I want to do. But like you guys said, all it really takes is the smallest little idea.
Yeah.
So I want to leave our viewers off with that. Your information can be accessed through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all at the Hope Sisters. I am so empowered with the episode that we just had in this talk, and I know I will be connecting so many people with you guys and everybody who's watching. Please feel free to join them. They're doing great work, so I think you guys are incredible. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
It's so kind of you. Thank you, John B.